A humanitarian flotilla carrying activists from 40 countries toward Gaza was intercepted by Israeli forces in international waters, triggering global outrage and a furious response from Recep Tayyip Erdoğan, who called the operation piracy and warned the world can no longer stay silent over the escalating Gaza humanitarian crisis. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan delivered a powerful and emotional address after Israeli forces intercepted the Global Sumud Humanitarian Flotilla that was attempting to deliver aid to Gaza. The incident immediately triggered international attention and intensified already rising tensions surrounding the Gaza conflict, with Turkey accusing Israel of violating international law by targeting civilian vessels in international waters. The flotilla, according to activists and Turkish officials, included humanitarian volunteers and civilians from nearly 40 countries. Organizers described the mission as part of a broader international campaign designed to draw attention to the worsening humanitarian conditions inside Gaza, where aid agencies continue warning about shortages of food, fuel, medicine, and medical supplies. As the crisis unfolded, videos and reports circulating online showed dramatic scenes from the sea. Activists claimed Israeli naval forces surrounded several vessels before communications from some ships were disrupted. Some participants also alleged that warning shots were fired during the interception, although there were no immediate confirmed reports of fatalities. The operation quickly became one of the most discussed geopolitical developments in the Middle East, especially because the interception reportedly took place in international waters. Turkish officials strongly condemned the operation and argued that the action represented a violation of international maritime law and humanitarian principles. Addressing the nation, Erdoğan accused Israel of once again demonstrating what he described as a harsh and aggressive mentality toward humanitarian efforts connected to Gaza. He said, İsrail'in nasıl faşist bir zihniyete paylaştığı yönetili bugün daha sağda olduk. The Turkish president stated that the flotilla was carrying humanitarian assistance and peaceful volunteers rather than military cargo. He argued that the convoy represented global solidarity with civilians trapped inside Gaza. He said, Gaziye insani yardım Gaza Sumud Falasına Israel Gapliria, the fight Soldier de Sinla Burzel Israel de Zinlenda. According to humanitarian organizations, conditions inside Gaza remain extremely difficult. Hospitals continue struggling with shortages of medicine and fuel, while aid deliveries remain limited in many areas. Activists connected to the flotilla argued that direct humanitarian missions had become necessary because traditional diplomatic efforts had failed to improve conditions on the ground. The Turkish government confirmed that diplomatic efforts were already underway to ensure the safety and return of Turkish citizens believed to be aboard the intercepted vessels. He said, Flota balloon vatanda salazazo yuner sekila ekemiza do nelari sijamelda Beluga, recognized as Donalir to Beluga, was reportedly organized not only as a humanitarian mission, but also as a SIMBI. ALEC Act aimed at drawing global attention back to Gaza. Organizers claim the convoy reflected growing frustration among international civil society groups regarding the pace of humanitarian response and what they described as global silence over civilian suffering. Erdoğan described the passengers as hope travelers and accused Israel of targeting civilians rather than addressing humanitarian concerns. He said, 40 far ülkenin vatandaşından oluşan sumet filistinum yolcularına uygunaylıyant bu korsanhal they hedutluhug and sert shapely lana chin national community. To respond more firmly, according to Erdoğan, repeated incidents involving Gaza demonstrated the failure of international institutions to enforce international law consistently. Said İsrail'in heka gurul tanımaz elimirin kreis uluslararası toplumu article harekete geçmeyi davet ediyoruz. The confrontation has once again placed the Gaza crisis at the center of international political debate. Humanitarian groups and rights organizations have continued warning that civilians inside Gaza face severe humanitarian pressure amid ongoing instability and restricted aid access. Meanwhile, Israeli officials defended the operation and insisted that the naval blockade around Gaza remains necessary for security reasons. Israel has long argued that restrictions are needed to prevent weapons and military supplies from reaching armed groups operating inside the territory. Israeli authorities also claimed humanitarian aid can enter Gaza through approved inspection mechanisms and accused some flotilla organizers of turning aid operations into political demonstrations. However, activists involved in the convoy rejected those claims and insisted their mission was entirely peaceful and humanitarian in nature. The latest confrontation also revived memories of the 2010 Mavi Marmara incident when Israeli commandos boarded a Turkish-led aid ship heading toward Gaza. That operation resulted in the deaths of several activists and caused one of the worst diplomatic crises between Turkey and Israel in modern history. Although relations between Ankara and Tel Aviv had shown signs of normalization, in recent years, the Gaza conflict has once again pushed tensions between the two governments to extreme levels. Erdogan's latest remarks reflected growing hostility and signaled that Turkey intends to continue using strong diplomatic and political language regarding Israeli operations in Gaza. Political analysts say the flotilla interception may deepen international debate over maritime law, humanitarian access, and the legality of naval blockades during wartime conditions. The fact that the operation reportedly occurred in international waters has made the controversy even more sensitive diplomatically. Several governments are now closely monitoring the situation, particularly countries whose citizens may have participated in the convoy. Human rights organizations have also demanded more information regarding the treatment of passengers detained during the operation. For Erdoğan, the issue also carries significant domestic political importance. Support for Palestine remains deeply emotional among large sections of Turkish society, and strong rhetoric on Gaza often receives widespread public backing inside Turkey. Since the beginning of the Gaza conflict, Erdoğan has consistently portrayed Turkey as one of the strongest international defenders of Palestinian civilians. He has repeatedly accused Israel of using disproportionate force and criticized Western governments for what he describes as double standards regarding the war. The flotilla confrontation also highlighted how the Gaza crisis continues influencing wider regional politics. Rising tensions between Israel and several regional powers have increased fears of broader instability across the Middle East. At the same time, critics of the flotilla argue that such missions risk escalating tensions further and creating dangerous confrontations at sea. Israeli supporters insisted that unauthorized attempts to breach the blockade and increase security risks and complicate humanitarian coordination efforts. Despite those disagreements, the incident succeeded in bringing renewed global attention to Gaza at a time when international focus had partially shifted toward other geopolitical crises. News coverage of the interception rapidly spread across international media, generating strong reactions from political leaders, analysts, activists, and humanitarian organizations around the world. Diplomatic discussions are expected to continue in the coming days as governments seek more clarity regarding passengers, detentions, and the future of similar humanitarian missions. Turkish officials are also expected to intensify diplomatic engagement with allies and international organizations following Erdogan's strong public response. The latest confrontation once again demonstrates how symbolic humanitarian missions connected to Gaza can quickly evolve into major geopolitical flashpoints. Even relatively small civilian operations at sea now carry the potential to trigger serious diplomatic crises involving multiple countries and international institutions. For many observers, the incident reflected the broader reality that the Gaza conflict remains far from resolved. Despite repeated international appeals for ceasefires, humanitarian access, and diplomatic negotiations, tensions continue escalating across multiple fronts. As reactions continued pouring in, Erdogan's speech became one of the strongest statements issued by a major regional leader following the flotilla interception. His comments reinforced Turkey's position as one of the loudest international critics of Israeli policy during the Gaza war. The Turkish president framed the issue not only as a humanitarian matter, but also as a test of international law and global morality. According to Erdogan, excellence from powerful nations and institutions risks encouraging further escalation and weakening global legal norms. The coming days are likely to determine whether the incident remains a temporary diplomatic crisis or develops into a larger international dispute involving investigations, political pressure, or broader regional consequences. For now, the Global Sumud Flotilla has once again placed Gaza at the center of world attention. The interception at sea, Erdoğan's fierce condemnation, and the growing diplomatic fallout have intensified international scrutiny surrounding one of the world's most volatile and emotionally charged conflicts. As uncertainty continues surrounding the fate of passengers and the future of humanitarian missions to Gaza, pressure is expected to grow on all sides involved. The incident has become far more than a maritime confrontation. It now represents another major chapter in the wider political, humanitarian, and diplomatic struggle surrounding Gaza and the Middle East.